It's always Craw. Like,
you remember on Hanging with Mr. Cooper? Y'all never watch Hanging with Mr. Cooper?
I did watch
yes.
Mr. Cooper.
Okay, and so at the beginning of the show, he's like, "Where's my theme music?" And he captured the ball, and then Don Lewis and
I do
okay.
something
All right.
that, yeah.
Lord.
Hey, folks, we gonna wait a couple minutes before we get started. We just can't come in looking like we just all like that. Come in with a little laughter, a little jokey joke.
Hanging with Mr. Cooper. I have not seen that in a long time.
Yeah, I think they have it on
On Hulu, I think.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
It's actually not one of those things I ever want to see again, though. But I did like it.
It wasn't that good, though.
Yeah, it wasn't.
Do you realize that, like, when you watch some of the shows we used to watch as a kid, as you watch it now, you like, why did I like this?
Yeah.
This was not good.
Very true.
I had the same conversation. I never watched Girlfriends before, so that wasn't a show that I ever watched. And I started to watch it during the pandemic, and I just realized I didn't like this. This is not good. I don't care for it. I know it's like I hated it.
You're so funny. Hey, everybody, come on in. It is time, and it's time for Truth Be Told live podcast. Share, comment, start a launch party. We're going to have a really good conversation tonight, as we always do. But as we get started, we're, of course, going to do our amazing check-ins with each other. So, Z, let's start off with you. How are you doing? What's going on in your world?
I am good. Work is good. Life is good. I am officially. I've been talking about this for like months, but I'm officially applying for my IRB to start collecting my data so I can be done. I want my life back. I feel like I have been doing this for 3 years, and it's been 3 years. I'm so tired of writing. But I'm also excited because I've gotten so much good feedback from my dissertation chair, from the dean of our college, even the reviewer for the program I'm in. We have an academic reviewer who reviews all of our proposals. And everybody is like really just positive. So this is a good topic. We need a topic. It's relevant. They just loved it. So I'm feeling good. I'm feeling real good.
Brandon?
Yeah, no, I don't know. I'm great. There's nothing like going on. I'm in a fantastic mood. Headspace is good. Higher ed kind of sucks in COVID. So I won't say that work is great, but I'm great. So that's all it is. I'm doing fine.
Well, that's good. I'm doing good. I feel like my week was long. I feel like I was in so many meetings all week. I'm a tad bit on the tired side. So after we wrap up tonight, I will be heading to my couch and my TV will be watching me after a while. But other than that, I'm doing good. Just riding it out, just being okay with where I am in life, which is a great accomplishment for me to be okay where I am. So that is me. So how are we kicking us off tonight, y'all? Brandon, Z. Now, y'all know I was doing the check-ins now. Okay.
So we want to first acknowledge the fact that it is Black History Month. And it's so much. So the one thing that we did love about this film is the iconic representation that was part of it. But before we go into that, we want to acknowledge that we did lose an icon at the beginning of this year. We lost our mother, Cicely Tyson. But I think many of us was like, some people was like, dang, she ain't gone yet. But then the other people are like, we sad, but she has given us so much. So it's like, she deserved to rest, and she deserves this peace, and she deserves to go on her own terms. So I do want to recognize and acknowledge that we had an icon who's given us so much, has set the path for so many, and all the respect to our good mother Cicely Tyson.
Yeah, I was actually really shocked when I was at a bar, of almost at a bar. But I was sitting at a bar and I got a message on my phone that said Cicely Tyson had passed. And I was just shocked. Like, man, she's, the world celebrates like Betty White. She's 99 and we always go give her accolades. But Cicely Tyson was ours. Like, she was our version. And I don't know, I loved everything about her. To me, I knew other people who didn't really know who she was. And I kind of thought like, it's Cicely Tyson. It's Cicely Tyson. I grew up, she did a movie called Miss Jane Pittman. And in my church, my mother, we used to put this like play or skit on based on that. And so I remember her as a young child because I remember her walking down and taking a drink out of the whites only fountain for the first time, being able to drink out of that fountain with the police officer standing there holding a baton. And so those memorable images that I have in my mind, she's just a great woman. And besides this, there's just a lot of stuff going on right now. We hear a lot of bad stuff going on in the Black community, but right now it seems like there is a lot of awakening going on and celebration going on within Black culture.
Yes, for sure, for sure. So, in celebrating the arts in the context of, movies and films, and as Brandon just mentioned, the great work of Cicely Tyson. And if you haven't watched this movie, I'm just going to put a plug in, not for the movie we're going to talk about, but when a Cicely Tyson movie I watched, told them I watched last weekend was called Sounder. It was one of her earlier films. It was like a 1970 something film. And I think I liked the movie because, it talked about, which kind of fits to what we're going to be talking about tonight. The context is this family. It was kind of depression time within their particular town. They lived in like Louisiana, and the father had ended up going and stealing some meat from a smokehouse or meat house so his family can have food. And as a result, he got put in prison for a year in a work camp. And she had to take care of her children the entire time. And so when she was taking care of her children, there was this white man who I think they were like, cropping on his land or whatever. They were sharecroppers. And he said, well, since so-and-so's gone, who's going to make sure I have my money? And she told him straight up, like, you're going to have your money. Don't worry about it. And so she led her and her children on tending the land so that they could have the money needed to pay this guy back. And when he came to get I think it was like cornstarch or something, I don't know what the crop was, but he said, you did good, and gave her money. But it was like this kind of pride of her as this woman doing what she had to do to take care of her children. So I put a plug in for that movie, and I think it's just a good transition as we're talking about healthy relationships and progressive ambition, just kind of what how do you make that mark of doing what you have to do? And then how do you make it from the context of love, and what that may mean. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of put that plug, but I thought it was a good connection to what we're going to talk tonight.
So we wanted to talk about the film Sylvie's Love, which is really interesting. One is a remake of another film of the same name that was a Doris Day, as a Nancy Wilson, and who else did you say, Stephanie?
Diane Carroll.
Diane Carroll, who I really do love. I love Diane Carroll. But the film it follows the interesting journey of two individuals who love one another, but they one puts their career first. The other puts their career on the back burner, but then when they come into their own, it's kind of like a flip. And then it's this back and forth struggle of how do we make this work and still find joy in what we're passionate about. So it's an interesting thing because that happens so much today. And I think we don't talk about that a lot. We kind of see the happy parts of relationships, but then we have to think about like what really requires us to be happy and what we might have to sacrifice in to be happy in relationships. So do we want to do a quick synopsis of the film, or do we want to go into questions? I got questions.
I think, it depends on if your questions, if we're kind of going piece by piece, similar to when we did Lovecraft, kind of taking it little chunks by chunks, or.
But Lovecraft was a series, so you had to take it chunk by chunk.
True.
That took days.
Right. But I think the one thing you had said in talking about, so I guess a synopsis or a semi-synopsis was good. So if you haven't watched this movie, go watch it. Prime Video. But so you have these two characters, as Z said, that their paths had crossed, I think it was like 5 years before that. And they had this summer kind of romantic fling, you could say. And this woman is engaged to this man. I think he was like traveling across the country. I don't know. Was he in the war? Was he a soldier? I couldn't get that context. I was trying to pull.
I think he was a medical student. Like, I think he was like a doctor or something. But they didn't really say much about where he really was or what he was doing. He just wasn't there.
Right. So he was gone. Y'all. So that she was working in her family's, in her father's like music store. And he's this musician, a part of this group. And the main character, he comes along and sees this sign posting in the window of help wanted in this music store, but he sees her. And I think, of course, he drew her. She drew him, like the look of her, I think, drew him into that store to where he ends up buying a record, but then getting a job. And so from there, it turns into this, they're hanging out. And now there's this love affair kind of happening. And she at first tried to play, no, I'm engaged. No. And really it was yes. And as a result, they ended up having this love affair, which led to her being pregnant. But before she knew she was pregnant, he asked her to go away with him because his music career was about to take off to where he was going to have, he had a music deal, or his group was going to go, I think it was to England. Was it Paris? Paris or England? Across the waters. They were going across the waters. But I think what the great thing about it is he asked her to go. And she finds out she's pregnant right before that. She comes to him, and I'm going to pause because I think we need to talk about that whole dialogue before, that part of the story. But she goes to meet him. And when she goes to meet him, she tells him, I can't go with you, but she doesn't tell him why. And so I'm going to pause there. I have a lot of issues about up to this point in the movie, but I'll pause. I'll let y'all jump in.
So the interesting thing about that, so I'm going to go back a little bit, because what was interesting about their tug of war of like how she was like, I'm attracted to you, but yet I'm supposed to be engaged to this person. The interesting thing about that was, one, she was part of like the socialite community. So she was engaged to be married to somebody who matched her social status. And according to her family, the guy that she was attracted to for that summer, I can't recall his name right now, but he wasn't within the alignment of the social status of the family. So that one kind of threw me a little bit, to where we have these ideas of what it should look like, of who we should be with. And some of us have this idea, like, you have to be at this part in your life. You have to make this much money. You have to be in this type of position. You have to do all these different things for you to even be seen as qualified or as deserving to be with certain individuals or to be with us. And then from there, we end up meeting someone who actually fulfills us. And I think that was the struggle. Like, his energy, his personality, the way in which he treated her fulfilled her in a way that she wasn't receiving that same thing from the guy she was supposed to be engaged to. I think that's the part of the struggle. But then when she got to, when it came down, when she realized she was pregnant, her thing was, I don't want to stop you from fulfilling your dream. And I think that's where that additional struggle is when we meet somebody and we know that we see the potential in where they could possibly go. Do we want to be the one who stops them from doing that? And I think that's what she saw. She said, in herself is what I'm assuming, if I tell him, then he will delay his gift, his the things that's waiting for him to travel internationally. At that time in the 1960s, for Black people, it wasn't always something that was available. So she was like, well, who am I to take this from this person? But yet she should have definitely have told him so that way he can come back home and be there with her. Like, I think a lot of stuff that she went through, she didn't have to go through, how she said something to him. Go ahead, Brandon. I'm gonna stop.
I don't know. She, I don't know. This movie kind of, I liked it for one reason, and then another reason I didn't. But I love that, like in the '60s, I could kind of see reminiscences of the way we kind of think today within these characters. No, she could not have told him that she was pregnant because he would have stayed. However, I don't necessarily know in her thinking, and I think women sometimes think that, but he made the choice to sleep with you, so you didn't take away his dream. If that was his dream, then he should have put a rubber on it. But he didn't make that decision, and she didn't give him the opportunity to make a decision at that point to go. Now, from there on out, you know, she goes on and she has a flourishing career, but not the love life that she wants. You know, she wants to continue to work, and then that time frame, this is different for a woman. She's a pioneer, really, to be a Black woman who's going to be a producer. She's a pioneer. This is a trailblazer. And so for her to say, you know, I want to choose my career, I want to be fulfilled in this way, and I'm not fulfilled at home like this. You know, your mindset is different in the house. It was kind of just, it was a struggle for me because I see that with us. You know, well, I'm not gonna say us. I see that with me. I definitely will choose my career, definitely, and dip out. And so that was kind of a struggle. And I recognize, we'll put this out there at the beginning, I recognize that there's a difference in this conversation between me being a male and you being a female. Like, it's a completely different thing. And her being a female, being able to make that choice and say, I am going to pursue this career and become somebody, and I've got to move my life back. Or I guess she had to give it up. I had to give this love life up, this family life up, at a time where society wasn't doing that. You know, this wasn't a normal thing for people to do, especially Black women.
Yeah, I think so. You have this. So you do have this struggle of someone, Sylvie, choosing, or so-called herself, like saying, I'm choosing better for Robert, that's the name Robert, by not letting him know I'm pregnant. So I'm choosing to withhold this from him so that he can go on and be great. Because in essence, she can almost say to herself, well, I know I'm going to be fine because of the social class I come from. At that time, there was no kind of dynamic of knowing what would have happened, because you interact and see her interacting with her mother. And it seems like the type of mother she had, her mother would have probably tried to like shut stuff down. But in this context, she says, okay, I'm going to choose your future for you by not telling you. But then you have this man that she then comes back and marries, and he says, I choose you because I want to choose you despite what you did to me. And I think that, that whole storyline wasn't completely played out. It was played out in a different way, where she felt then obligated to the guy she married in staying when she wasn't happy because he chose her despite the situation, or what she felt like, oh, you didn't want to make it seem as though like I was out here being reckless, so you went on ahead and married me, raised his child as your own. So I think there's just these whole dynamics of people choosing for other people without having that conversation. Because right, if she would have stayed, if she would have told Robert that she was pregnant, and he probably would have stayed because he loved her, but then would that love superseded his dream? And I think sometimes in the dynamics of relationships, can love, and I'll put this out as a question, Z, I know you had questions, but do you think that for you that love could supersede you accomplishing your dream?
I think it can. So I do. I think it can. I think it's a certain kind of love though. So like, I'm like Brandon, I'm probably more likely right now to select my career because I know the kind of love I'm looking for. So if I'm not finding that type of love or that type of relationship, then my career's going to come first. I'm not going to, if I don't see the value in taking that gamble with someone and not necessarily feel confident in what it could look like. I think that's kind of where they both end up, so towards the end of the film, they kind of both were like, I'm not sure if I can do this on both sides. And I even think it was more so for Robert because of towards the end of the film, he was no longer touring. He was no longer part of the band. He was trying to find employment. He was trying to actually become a solo artist. And if you really know the music industry and how it has treated Black people and just like taking things from them, not actually giving them a fair chance, short-ending them when it comes to being paid, like he was part of that music industry that did not treat him well. So towards the end, he was like, you didn't even evolve to where I think at that time it was like Motown was becoming more popular, and his type of music did not fit into what Motown was producing. So Motown became more prevalent, and he pretty much became obsolete. So in that, it was like, well, what do I do next? So he didn't develop an additional skill for him to really be successful to support a family. And in that context, he chose not to be a burden. I think he felt like he would be a burden. I think we talk about like the masculinity idea of like, what does it mean to be a man? Can I take care of this family and this household? She chose to leave for herself to pursue her own career. So she left her husband to fulfill her career because she got the opportunity to fulfill her dream that she had always dreamt of. But then even then, she was willing to take in and be with a man who wasn't working, but he, in his identity as the man, as society teaches men to be the providers and the head of the household, he couldn't do so because he didn't have a job. He didn't have finances. He couldn't contribute in any way. He wasn't finding employment. So that to me will be a question of like, can I be that same person? Honestly, I've been in that position. I've been in a position where I love someone so much, but they weren't able to financially take care of themselves. I chose myself. I wasn't willing to take the risk. I mean, I love them, but love don't pay bills. that's just the reality of it. Love don't pay bills. And I didn't come from that household. So I have to be able to see that you can help with this household. So love don't pay bills. I mean, that's the reality. That's the world I'm in. I'm sorry. So if it's career, taking a gamble, I'm choosing my career.
Listen, yo, okay. So the question is, love of the career. I'm with you. My granny used to say, take that to the bank and see what you get. Like, you can't take love to the bank. And I am a proponent. No, I am not choosing love. One day, I hope I find a love that will make me change my mind. But as of today, I will leave you because I'm hungry. So I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to give up my dream of my ambitious career dream to pursue love. Like, I'm not doing that. I may compromise if I'm already in love. I may make some type of compromise, but today, nah, I haven't found that yet, and I ain't seeing it. So I'm gonna have to pack my bags and go to wherever the check is at.
No, I mean, I think that y'all have a valid point. I definitely, if I am in, and this is so funny. I used to talk to this guy, and we worked at a similar place. And I remember him saying to me, well, if we ended up getting married, then, you'll have to quit. And I'm like, help me understand in this picture I don't understand how this work out. Like, I was trying to, in the equation, trying to understand where I'm at this place first. Like, I was already here. You just came here and got hired. And now we're talking about possibly building a relationship, having a relationship, building something. And you tell me if we get married, I have to quit. And I just couldn't understand that context. Needless to say, that person is not in the picture in this current situation. But I think I would have to go to, is this particular career, this particular path, a part of my calling, my purpose? If it's a part of my calling and purpose, then the person I'm with would never ask me to give it up for them. Because if they did, then they're not supposed to be along this journey with me in the first place. So I would have to do some complete reconciling and asking some questions, some spiritual context, like, okay, God, like, is this a joke? Like, was this love supposed to redirect me, or is this somebody trying to deter me? So I would not, I can't say immediately that I would stay stay or leave or compromise or give up, because I mean, I think it's all about where's my journey taking me. And it could be with you or it could be without you. So, but once again, I guess, I haven't been in that place where I've had to choose. And I'm like, this man didn't even love me. We wasn't even like together. And you tell me I got to quit my job. I said, it makes me laugh now.
But I think the interesting part of that is the compromise part that you just said, Steph. Like, there's ways we can compromise in relationships. The question, and that I'm on the same page as you. Like, I've had somebody tell me similar, like, if I get a job somewhere, you got to leave here and come with me. And I'm like, I need you to, tell me how's that gonna work out? Like, do you really know me? But on the other side of that, like, can I compromise? So if I'm with somebody and I see them as a future, I see them as someone that has been, who is meant to, like, we're meant to be together. This is who God has sent for us to be together. Then I think there's a compromise to where I can start looking for a job in certain places before I'm not the type of person that, if you know me, don't ask me to quit and just come and live with you and you take care of me. That's not who I am. That makes me so uncomfortable to put I just can't do that. But what I can do is look for a job somewhere and get that way I'm making my own income. But on top of that, I think that was a part of, she was willing to compromise. She was so willing to compromise to where she was like, I can take care until you find something. And he just left. And I think that is where some of us, because I think the other part of it is like, we have this thing where women are, right now, it's talking about women are less likely to get married because we're choosing our careers over love. And I think at times it's like that, what is a conversation that's being had between that couple regarding what the expectations are for both. And at times, like Stephanie just shared, and I shared the same thing, like we have men saying, you have to give up your career to come be with us. Why is that even an option? Why is that even being put on the table? Why is there not a compromise of, let's talk about how do we do this together? Specifically for the fact that I typically date people who are not in the same state as me. So I'm typically doing a long distance relationship, which means somebody gonna have to move at some point. And 9 times out of 10, more likely than not, it's always been proposed of, you need to move to be with me. You don't really know me that well to make that but what's the compromise? So that's why I'm like, I think it's an interesting dynamic to where how she showed up in the film of, and she even said, I will get up and move and come with you. So even then was like, I love you this much. You go to Detroit, you go figure out what's happening at Motown, you get on there, I'll sell the house. I'll ask about, she even went as far as saying, I can relocate. It's a new company in the same city. I'll relocate. And it didn't work out. He just ended up leaving. So for us, it's like, that was a good moment where she said, I'm going to do this with you. I support you. I encourage you. I believe in what you're going to do. You're going to be great. But yeah, that's not the same thing now. Well, it is. I can't speak for everybody in their mama, but me, I'm not there yet. I got to find that person that makes me want to say, I'm going to quit my job and relocate without a ring, without us being married. Like, that's where I'm like, I ain't there.
So this is where the sexism part comes in, because I have never had anybody say that to me, but I have said that to other people. Like, hey, if I leave, you either leaving or we done. Like, I have said that. I'm sorry, but that is it. like we said, there's a difference between it just because of societal views, and I'm guilty of it as well. But I have definitely said that. Like, I have also, though, to my benefit, I have also said, like, I actually am interested in that city, so I'm willing to look in that city. I have said that to very few, but usually I'm like, hey, listen, I ain't planning on staying here forever. So the day I decide to go, if I get this job, I just want you to know, deuces. That's pretty much it. And it's the higher ed life. Everybody is moving around, and so for us three, we all work in higher education. There is no set like city. I may move around. I may go to a different city if I plan on advancing my career. Now, for those people and you're settled where you're at, you just want to grow in that one space. That's cool. But for those of us who are progressively looking to advance, that means you're going to be moving around a lot, especially as a millennial. And what's really interesting is we all said the same thing. And the fact is that millennial is that generation that it did not rush to get married, did not buy a house, did not move out of their parents' house after graduation. Like, we are that generation that chose our career and said, I'm going to work. We didn't have kids. We are the reason why higher ed sucks right now, because we did not have a lot of kids. We don't have them. We're 40 now, and we're just now having kids. So there's going to be a gap. But that's just who we are in general. And I think for the most of us, I know love is a second option. It is, I got to take care of myself first, get myself together, and then I'll figure out if I can fall in love and have that family and live that dream. But my dream right now is to make sure that I'm good.
So I'm gonna let you talk, Steph. I just feel like Brandon just called me out, like, because I'm gonna just be honest. I'm about to be 40 and I ain't got not one child. So I'm the one contributing to this low enrollment because my kids not enrolling anywhere because I don't have none. So I thought you just called me out, Brandon.
All of us. It's actually like real true. There's a book out called The Enrollment Crisis, which talks about it. Millennials did not have kids. We went to school. So our parents' generation believed in going to college. They thought college would work, and so they sent us to college. We went and racked up all the student debt we could get because we went to college regardless of anything. Didn't matter if you had the money or not, we went. We left college with lots of debt, moved back into our parents' houses, did not buy cars, did not buy houses, did not start families. And just now, millennials are saying, let's buy houses. Now all my friends want to get houses and have kids, but they're pushing 40. Like, we are a different breed of people. And I can't say I have been to that many weddings of friends in my generation. Like, I don't have it. I wish I did, but I've been to maybe like 3 or 4. That's pretty much it. It's not like a rush to get married for anybody in this particular generation. And the generation after is even worse. Generation Z has no plans on even going to college. They doing TikTok dances. That's their plan after they graduate. Is that they're gonna
Brandon, I think it's almost like what our parents said to us has now come back into like possibly having economic impacts. Like, you told me to go to school, get good grades, go to college, don't have kids before you married, all this stuff. Guess what? I didn't. I went to college, didn't have kids before I married, and here I am, almost 40, be 38 in a couple months. But, I don't think that has to be a bad thing, depending upon how, I'm sure if you talk to somebody who was like an economist or somebody that did data and other kind of projections back in like 1983, 1980s when we were born, it's like, okay, based on the patterns of this generation, if they do what their parents did, there would be X number of people by this time, and the country will be this by this time. So yeah, I mean, possibly we could see that our generation has messed up the economic balances. However, I think that in some regards, Is it that we're not getting, is it that we're not having these relationships and these kids, but we're just not getting married? Because I think I know a lot more people that are in our age group that have kids, but they just not married. Like, you know, I think that there's some dynamics of what we saw maybe growing up on TV, or, I think we saw more. I would say more of the shows that I watched growing up, you did see the whole, you had the Harriet and Carl Wisdom, you had, you know, um, Cosby Show. You had black married people, so it's not like the images, but in your own personal life, you didn't necessarily see that. So for some of us, I'm just wondering if our notions of what it means to have love and relationships have been jaded because of the things that we may see around us, and we just like, no, let me focus on myself. Let me have it all together or semi together before I jump into something more. Or is it just like I don't need that now? Like,
I think it's a both. It's like you were for I think it's a both. Like I think we saw the Carl Winslows and the Harriet. We saw the Uncle Phil and Aunt Bea. Like we saw all of that, and we're aspiring. We're looking for that. So we're not settling for Junebug anymore because we really know we can go get that because y'all told us we go spend all this money on this degree. We can end up with that because Junebug is not going to get us there. So I think like that's the biggest thing is like it's a both and because we grew up watching that and many of us didn't see that in our own households. So because we didn't see that in our own households, we looked to those icons on television who gave us an idea of what actually a cohesive family might look like. And we're still looking for that. Like me, I'm a hopeless romantic. So I'm really looking for somebody who understands how to communicate and can talk about their value and knows how they add value, but then also understands love languages and know how to communicate not just from theirs, but how to meet mine. Like, you know how hard it is to even get a black man to open up about what their own struggles are. And that was reflective in that film. He never really told her how he felt about himself. His way to do so was to leave. He didn't say, I feel inadequate. He didn't say, I feel like I'm a failure. He didn't say like, I don't think I can give you what you deserve. He left. It had to be her friend who told her or somebody else who told her where he was and what was going on for her to go and say, I'm going to get my man. I didn't realize that's how you felt. So let me come get you and let you know that this is home. Like, that's where I think we're also coming at too. Is like, can you open up and talk about what you're feeling? Because many of us women want to really know. It's different when some people aren't there. And I will admit, like, some women make it so difficult for men to open up and like truly talk about their feelings. But many of us really want to know because we want to be that support. We want to know, how do I support you? How do I encourage you? How do I not nurture you in a parental motherly way, but nurture you in a healing, comforting way? Like, how do I give you what it is that you need so you can give me what I need so we can be whole together and go and take this world over? But if we can't have that dialogue, then I'm not going to fall in love with you. You'll be a really good friend. We'll hang out. We might travel. I'll check on you here and there. Hey, you good? But will you end up being able to get my heart? No, not in an intimate relationship way. So I think it's a both part.
So I am a bad communicator in relationships, so I'm with him. But I will say he did the same thing to her that she did to him. So she decided to make a choice to let him go because she had this child she didn't want to tell him about. And he did the same thing. He decided, I'm going to go because I want you to have this career. I know you can follow me, but I need to go do this. He did the same thing. So they were both equal in different ways, but both the communication wasn't there on what to do. He may have, made a decision and said, hey, I know you're pregnant. I still want to go do this, but I'm going to come back, or I'll send money back, or I'll do whatever. He could have made that decision. He didn't have the opportunity to because she didn't communicate. And she did communicate that she wanted to go with him. She was willing to leave, but he made the decision for her and said, no, I'm leaving you, without communicating what was going on with him.
yeah, so much. Z, did you have any questions? You said you had some questions that you wanted to ask. I don't know if you still had them or not. Are we done?
We didn't already touched on them.
Okay. So I wanted to say something about our generation. So I remember I was going to brunch with a group of women, and I just got to get y'all's thoughts on this. And so this was a couple of years ago, and one of the women, like she's professional, she's doing her thing, like strong professional woman out there in the world. And she had told a group of us about this opportunity. This is going to sound really silly, about this opportunity to put out a request for proposal for a guy. Now, what she meant, or what she was saying, what she was explaining to us, is that she was going to work with this person who was going to actually do, like, RFP. This is what the things that I'm looking for. This is like the times, the days that I'm wanting to hang out. This is the type of connection I want to have, like all this stuff. And it was going to be like, it's like people that actually do this, like they work with you, like professional people that don't necessarily have the time. They don't want the commitment of a relationship. They're not doing the online dating thing because there's too much kind of question mark about that. But they work with this person to do like a request for proposal. And then I guess this person goes out like how we do. I don't want to say bids, because I don't think it's like they're bidding on the person, but they're like taking the request for proposals, putting it out into whatever market of single people that's in their network thing. And then they would interview them, kind of thing. It sounds so weird when she was talking about it, but I'm like, have y'all heard of anything like this, that professional people are doing things? Like, it's not that I don't have time for a relationship. I don't have time for all this, but there's things that I want in the context of adultness, and it's just not a commitment, but there is a professional arrangement we can have.
So I think somebody just put on there. It's called a matchmaker. You have matchmakers who do this at a very high level. I think that's what you're talking about. Is someone who does it for mostly high profile professionals who say like a doctor of some sort. There are probably single doctors right now who are struggling in the dating scene because they are responding to COVID, but yet they still want to have that intimacy of some sort. So it would probably be those individuals who would go and utilize this. It's a high profile matchmaker. Could I do a RFP? That makes it sound so disingenuous, just because it's a business contract. I don't necessarily need a business contract to have a friend with benefits. It's like, that's what it sounds like. It's a business contract for a friend with benefits. But could I do that? I could. Like, I think where I am right now, I'm also like open to something like that. Like, I don't want the commitment part. At some point I would do want to get married, but I'm doing too much. Like, I don't really have time to hang out with friends. So I'm like, I ain't gonna have time for a relationship. But I couldn't call it an RFP. Like, that just sounds so.
That was you didn't call it that, but that's the correlation that I can make, because of how she was describing it. It just seemed very contractual in nature, and very much like I let them know this is the things that I want. This is just like all the specifications, and then from there it's like this process of where it's put out here in whatever kind of ethos of singleness, and people respond, and then there's a whole process, and it just seemed very. It seemed if you didn't want more than just something official like that, and I don't know. I mean, and probably there are probably tons of people that have done this, had success, and they end up getting married to these individuals. I don't know. It just sounded like a very interesting process to me, and I'm like, I don't think I could get with that. That just seems so. That was just not up my alley.
It sounds like I got to pay for this. I'm not going to do this. I got to pay. I'm good. I'm okay. I'm not going to do it. I don't have a problem with it. Like, if somebody said they were doing this, they put out an RFP and somebody picked it up, I don't have a problem with that. But for me, maybe because I'm not like looking, like I'm not searching right now. But even if I was, I just feel like after I do this, maybe I'm cheap. I gotta still buy you dinner. I just bought you. I gave you a resume. I just put out this RFP. Now I gotta buy you flowers. Like, no, I'm good. I don't think I want to do this. I'd rather just go to the bar. Let's meet. Let's have drinks and find somebody there. Maybe I'm a traditionalist, or maybe I'm just not looking. So,
No, I mean, I think it was just a very interesting concept. And so, I mean, I think when you talk about, being an ambitious person, being someone that's going after your goals in life and, maybe focus in certain ways, it's like there's certain compromises people say you have to make. I don't necessarily believe you do, but some people say you have to make certain compromises, which may be this contractual kind of agreement, even if it's not a contract, but this kind of, oh, this is what I want right now. This is what you want. Okay, so we'll just make it happen. And there's no sort of commitment, I guess I would say. But I think what I'm learning more and more is that the notion of healthy relationships and being ambitious, I don't think that they have to be parallel. I don't think they have to be like parallel paths that can't cross. I think you could be both ambitious and have a healthy relationship. As Dee said, it's about that communication. It's about us having that understanding of where we currently are. Are we on the same path of where we want to go? And how do we create the how do we create and be honest and open from the beginning? One of the things that I used to always hate is that I would ask this question, and this is probably like a man would probably tell me, don't ask that question, but I would ask the question, so what is this? Well,
oh,
let's see what happened. I don't have time. Like what happened? That don't make sense to me.
So you
No.
missed my whole podcast. You missed the whole episode. That was the whole theme of it. So what are we doing?
no,
Right.
do not
Oh,
ask.
on the other day I missed your podcast.
Yeah, that's what the podcast was talking about. It was a concept of, so what are we doing?
I didn't know.
No, you're fine, because I think that's the thing too. Is like when we ask that question and you get the male's response of, well, let's see what we're doing. Like, we'll see what happens. Like, that just tells me you're really not interested in moving this forward. So, because if you're telling me, let's see what happens. Now, I will say this. And do I ask this question within the first date? No.
Okay.
It's usually after a while where I really want to know where we're going so I can know how to play. I want to act accordingly. So let me know what we're doing. If you're trying to figure this out, honestly, you really know if you have interest or see any type of future with someone within the first 3 months. You really know, because whatever or whoever the representative goes away after a while. So you start recognizing, okay, either you trifling or you have OCD or you talk too much or whatever, or I really enjoy this company, you really are engaged. Like, it's whatever it is that you are looking for, you'll find that out within 3 months. Some people will let you know within a week. Either way it goes, So let's see what happens. No, you're pretty much trying to buy time. You're procrastinating, or you really have no goal. And if that's the case, you're letting me choose, because I'm going to choose. And I'm going to make the decision to say, this is not what I want to do. I'm not waiting to see what's going to happen. What are we doing?
So I think that can sometimes be a wall mechanism that men kind of use. I wouldn't come and say, what are we doing? Because my response is going to be like, I don't know. No, we doing what we just did. What you talking about? So I don't know if I'd ask that question. Maybe, where do you see this going? I could answer that one. I still might say, I don't know, but at least it leads me to have a dialogue where we can communicate back and forth. Where just the flat out question, what are we doing, just leaves it on me, and now I don't know what to say. I'm just like, okay, we are doing what we do on Tuesdays, and then I gotta go. But I also think, sometimes guys aren't, me included, sometimes guys aren't necessarily the most verbal in the way we communicate and be able to have that conversation. Not saying it's a good thing, but sometimes we're not. And so you may want to see what the signs are and maybe have a different conversation, knowing what love looks like for them, how they interact with you, versus me having to say it all the time. Because I may never come out and say, like, this is where I see us going. However, you may see me pushing us to go on in a relationship. Now, if I'm not doing anything, we just stuck and we in the same routine every day. You come over and that's it. You don't see it going anywhere. That's a different conversation. But if you can at least see that I'm progressing in this relationship, then maybe that's the sign, and that guy might not be able to communicate. What are we doing?
So you asked me to be a mind reader and a traffic cop?
No.
And I'm not looking at no. Use your words. You grown.
I am saying
with college degrees. I'm gonna need you to use your words, formulate the sentences, because you used your words when you asked me out and asked for my number. Now you stuck. Now you stuck.
Huh? I may not have.
True. I mean, but there was a yes. There was some communication for us to be at this point to where we're hanging out. We're going.
Said, what up though? Like, what's up? What you doing? What's up? And that's how it started. I don't know. Every guy's different, but I know most guys, just the communication of how we feel is a harder conversation. And so a dialogue of it is great. But for me, just to have to tell you, like, if you just put it on me to say, what are we doing? Express it. Then I'm going to be like, I don't know, I might freeze up. But if you have a conversation, this is where I see us going. What do you think? Then we can dialogue and I can participate.
So I'm saying you just in general, as you might speak for the male species. So y'all want us to put our hearts out there about what we're looking for to even see. So you want us to receive the rejection other than you being forward about what you want. You want us to endure the rejection to say, well, I don't see what you see. I see us just doing what we do on Tuesdays.
We just
gonna hang out. But instead of us asking the question of, so what are we doing? What do you see us? And you like, well, I don't really have an answer. I don't know. But you want me to come out and tell you, I really do enjoy hanging out with you and spending time with you. I really like you. And I just want to know, do you see us having a future? Like, and now it's us taking the risk of saying, well, I don't really, I just see us hanging out on Tuesdays.
I mean, you don't have to come out and say, I see us having a future, but you can say, this is what I want. I prefer in a conversation to say, this is clearly what I want. It doesn't have to be like, with you, I want this future, I want this, but it can be, what I want is I want to be married, I want to have kids in a few years. Does this line up with what you want? Yes, okay, if it does, then let's talk about how we get there together or how we don't get there together. I'm okay with that conversation, and I'm okay with all of it. I just think in general, when you talk to a lot of guys and you get to asking them how they feel, a lot of guys freeze up in that area. And so since women don't, then you can kind of navigate that conversation differently than just putting me on the spot after I'm done what I'm done. And you like, hey, what we doing? And I'm like, dang. But usually if I want to tell you what we're doing, then I probably don't want to do that with you anyway. I ain't trying to go further. You should already know what we doing because we doing it.
I love you, Brandon.
I'm supposed to know what we doing because we already do it. Okay.
In the context, we already doing what we doing. So,
but what are we doing? That's where I get the most annoyed, because I'm like, when I've asked that question, like, what are we doing? And the response is, what we've been doing. That's just out of 10. We ain't doing anything. So that means we ain't doing nothing. Because that to me, like, it's like, if we're, and that's probably where I'm like, it's probably who I'm choosing. I'm just gonna say that. But if we're just hanging out, we're just hanging out, which means we're not growing to do anything. Because I can come hang out with y'all. Like, we can have a YL. That's hanging out. Like, well, I need another hangout partner for. I'm trying to grow a partnership where we are changing our community. That's what I'm looking for. Mm-hmm. And I want to be able to do that with somebody that I have a intimate relationship with. That's what I'm looking for. So if you talking about we doing what we doing, so we just hanging out then. We just gonna grab some food. We might take a trip here and there. Because that don't tell me you have any type of aspirations for this to go anywhere further. So if that's the response, that's when I draw back. If you're telling me what we doing, then we doing what we doing, which means I'm single, and do what I want to do. Don't get your feelings hurt when you realize you're not number one. You're not priority.
So I remember when I was talking to this guy and the YLs were taking when we did the cabin trip. So I told the guy, I said, so I just want to let you know, because I know you're gonna see Facebook pictures or whatever. So I don't want you to be surprised. I said, I just want to let you know that the cabin trip I'm going on is with my sister and a couple of our guy friends. I'm like, there's nothing happening. Like, we're like family. That's like my brothers, whatever. So, and it's like, it caught him off guard, but I'm like, sir, you have not been no types of clear about what you want this to be. So how are you going to feel some type of way? Even while we were on the cabin trip, like I reached, talked like, hey, how are you? Blah, blah, blah. But it's funny because one of the pictures, and I just actually, this picture came up in my timeline. One of the pictures was of Wayne and I, like we were at a restaurant, and I remember I was leaning back on Wayne. We were leaning on each other. And then I remember when I got back home and we were hanging out, he's like, oh yeah, so you was leaning on people. I'm like, oh, so you was checking my timeline, but you don't want to have a conversation about where we going. So you want to be mute here, but then now you got something to say, you scrolling my timeline to see what's up. I was just confused about that. So don't send mixed signals. Like if you trying to make you want us to be something, then you need to use your words. And then you can have a reason that be in your feelings if I hang out with my friends. I'm just saying, like, you can't send messages.
What if I am the one, or the male is the one showing you that the relationship? Now, I 100% agree. If you don't feel like it's going anywhere, then stop, ask what's going on. Not what's going on, but stop, ask questions, and have a conversation about it. I am good with us having a clear plan, you knowing where I'm at and I know where you're at. I am good with that. I just, what if I am moving this relationship forward? You see it growing, you see me more involved, you see me pushing it. Then if you know that I'm the type of guy who doesn't share my feelings very well, then that question may throw me off. It may say like, it feels like I'm being put on the spot if I'm not a person who shares my emotions like that. As soon as that question comes, it feels like you just attacked me. Like, dang, I thought we were cool, and now you want me to explain this to you, and I don't really want to do that. Now you set me up to feel vulnerable, which is okay, but I may not be a guy who's comfortable being vulnerable. And so I am a person who will show you probably more than I tell you, and our love languages, if we know what they are, then what love looks like for me. When I'm treating you the way I think love should be. And maybe we have that conversation. Listen, I would rather the relationship go in this direction, and I can say, okay, cool, let's do that. Because I love you, I can change the way I show you love. And so I can do that for you. If they not, then they probably just a jackass and leave their ass.
But I think, Brady, you bring up a good point that there's potential the conversation about love languages. So if you're just a gift giver, or if you are a person that you don't like public display of affection, but I do, I can't remember them all, but depending on, you're right, did we have that conversation of what our love languages are, or the way in which we express? So if you're expressing, because there comes a point where if you're expressing to me that you care and that we're progressing, but yet I'm just coming around like, where we at? Then either I'm not listening, or I'm not, the love languages, there's a conflict. Like, I see you doing all of these things, but these things to me, they don't correlate with love. Like, if I remember, so same guy, I remember him telling me one time, we were talking about something. We were going to some sort of, I think we were going to a show or some sort of like car show or something. And they had like tickets and stuff that they were giving away. And No, that's not what it was. I remember he liked to do scratch offs or play the lottery or something. And he said, "Oh, if I hit the lottery, I'm going to buy you a charm." I said, "A charm?" I said, "What?" I said, "No, actually, if you were to like hit the lottery, or no, it was like hit something. I don't know how much money you're going to." I said, "No, what you can actually do is I can take that particular money that you want to give me and I can pay off some bills over here, not give me some dang on charm." I'm like, "You think you buying me something? A charm, first off, brother, I'm better than a charm. Let's be clear. That's first thing. Second thing, I would not want a charm, a piece of jewelry. I would rather pay some bills so that I'll be in a fine joke." I'm like, so needless to say, once again, this person's not in the picture anymore, but I'm like, your context, he was a buyer. He liked to toss money at stuff. And for me, you can toss money at anybody because I've seen him do it. So you doing that to me, it makes me feel like I'm a part of everybody else. So once again, I think it's like, as you said, Brandon, if we're progressing and I see we're progressing, but we're not progressing in the same way in the context of what you're doing, I'm not receiving, or the communication that you're giving is not like we're speaking different languages. If we're speaking different languages, then we could be progressing, but I'm not sensing that, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. That's why I was thinking the same thing. Like the way in which Brandon was speaking, that just means like we've moved along far enough to where I know your communication style. So if you're doing things that is affirming that this is where you want to be and this is where you see a future at, then that just means we've learned each other in that context. I'm more so talking about early on, because again, I'm not going to be around with somebody more than 3 months. And I'm asking, if I have to even ask a question, what we doing, that's typically where I am in my life right now. I'm not even going to ask. If it comes to my mind of saying like, what are we really doing? And if I feel like I have to ask a question, that's telling me like you haven't learned my love language. There really isn't much interest of what's like us moving forward. There's no action that aligns with, if anything, your interest. And we just really just doing this, we doing what we do on Tuesdays type thing. Like that's not a relationship. That's not moving forward. That's not progress. That's just, we just spending time and hanging out. So that's typically where I make the decision within myself. Like we just hanging out, and I start acting accordingly. I match the energy that they give in that way, in that essence. But if I'm at the place like literally, I'm not about to ask this question. So if your actions really don't actually show me that you have interest, because I do recognize that there are men who aren't that comfortable with communicating how they feel, but they'll show you all day. If you're looking, I can sense that. I'm very observant, so I'm going to watch your actions. If nothing aligns with anything that makes me feel like this is going to move forward, we just spend the time to waste to pass the time. And that's all it is.
Yeah, and I don't know, I'm half crazy. So, I went on a date once and immediately from the get-go had a conversation. They were like, I want somebody I can take home, meet my mother, eventually get married, have kids. Like I'm looking for that. And I was like, okay, well, I'm looking to chill tonight and then I will call you next week. It's like, that's what I'm looking for. But I'm glad we're having this conversation. So I know tomorrow when you call, not to answer. Like I need to know now.
We need to know how to act accordingly.
Yeah,
you're wrong. No, you're wrong.
Thank you. And I do appreciate those conversations. I am not the emotional person. So if at that date they had said, so Brandon, how do you feel about me and what are we doing? Then my answer still wouldn't have changed. But I was definitely like, I would have been like, you cool. You all right. So you eating your food. I bought it. So I think we good, right? Like we having a good night. We having a good time. And if you had asked me that question, and so I just do that. And I am not, just like you said, I'm not a gift person. So I am a person who appreciates recognition. So, you can buy me something like, in our friendship, we buy each other gifts to recognize accomplishments, and I truly appreciate that. But just random gifts is not me. I don't feel loved because you bought me something. I don't at all. I actually despise it if you just buy me random stuff. But if I enjoy compliments. My showing you love is through those acts of service. So I may not come and say, I love you. I just ended like a relationship I had this summer was like, oh, you cry, you already knew. You already knew I was in a relationship this summer.
Oh, Brandon, we're going to come back to go ahead, finish your statement. We're going to come back to that offline. We're going to come back offline.
When I was in a relationship this summer, and within a couple of weeks, I realized like, oh, this person wants to spend a lot of time with me. Okay, well, this is not going to work. Like I'm not you didn't call me today. Why not? Like I'm not that person. I didn't call you because I didn't want to call you, but you were still there. Like we was cool, but I had a job and it wasn't that I didn't think about you. So that's not my way of showing you love. And so, I can't do that. And I think those conversations for me, I love those conversations. And so that would be a conversation I'm having up front, like, because that's who I am. And I like to have that, but I don't think a lot of people would. I don't see, a lot of men who would want to go out and talk about what's your love language. Like that's not going to happen. Even females, I don't think they're going out saying, what's your love language on the first and second date.
Z said, yeah, I think it's something you hit on. I think sometimes it's like, what are you expecting when you go on that first date? Because like, if I have in my context, like, oh, I'm so ready to find my husband. And so all of a sudden this man shows me attention, asks me out, and I didn't already had us down the aisle with our first kid, then the context, and yet this man was coming and he was, nice. He wanted to hang out. And then I asked him on the first date, like what you were talking about, like where we going or whatever the case may be. I think we just got to be mindful of, I'm not saying to lower our expectations or anything like that. I think we just got to be mindful how we come to the door. And what I mean by that is if you know that you are wanting this romantic love, whatever, yes, there is some point you have to have that conversation, but you can't come to the door expecting that person to be the love, romance, whatever at the first time y'all go out. That's unfair to that person because you've already set this expectation for them to meet and they don't even know. Like they asked for your number to go to dinner and you already then signed the mortgage for your first house and y'all got the dog and the kid and they didn't even know, like they just said hi. So I think we have to be mindful of, yes, have our goals, have what we want, like the person that told you, I want to be married. I want to take somebody home to my mom, blah, blah, blah. That's great to know that you want that. I'm not that. But did you come to this date thinking that I was? And you didn't look at me through that lens? I think that sometimes people can do that. And then you go through this whole, you broke my heart. No, you broke your own heart because you came to the door thinking that this was something that it wasn't. And it could have been, it could have grew into that. But if you come, I've learned that, got the keychain, the sweatshirt and the hat. And I just won't do that again. Like I can't come to the door expecting somebody to be the, whatever I'm not saying not expect them to be a good man, handling his business and all of that stuff. But if we just met, can't get married tomorrow kind of thing. And, so I think that sometimes can affect a lot of those interactions.
So I think we have to keep in mind that dating, specifically on a first date, is collecting data. Like you're assessing the person to see who they are and if this is somebody you want to spend another moment with, not the people who take first dates as this is a sign that this is my person. I think they are more eager to be in what the image of marriage is opposed to actually building a healthy relationship. Like if just your first date, that's two different things. When you've spent time, you got to know the person, and then you start seeing, okay, could this be somebody I could take home to my parents or my family, whomever? Because yeah, I would love to get married. True. Do I want to get married? Absolutely. Do I want to be able to have somebody who comes around my family? Absolutely. Is that the first thing I go with to the date with? No. I'm going to see if I can spend another day with you. If I want to see you again. If you will get on my nerves within the first 5 minutes. Like that's what I'm collecting information, data on that person to see if this even has a potential for a second date. Even the second date, does have potential for a third date. Like, and then I'm also looking like, can we go out in different settings? So can I bring you around my friends? Can we, do you know how to actually properly order and pronounce things, or don't order things you can't pronounce? Like, that's what I'm looking for. Like, where is your, just, do you have decorum? Like, I mean, it's the smallest thing. So to go into a day of saying, well, I want to take you home to my mom. Well, would your mother approve of this person? Like, is that the first thing you really thinking of? Like, is this somebody that you really want to take around your mother? What's their criminal background? Do you want to take them around your nieces and nephews? Like, you want to collect information before you do that. That's, to me, is like, I think those are people are just way too eager. You're looking at the imagery and the glitz and glamour of a marriage, opposed to like actually knowing somebody that you want to build with. Two different things.
What's interesting is, so going back to the date that asked me, told me they want kids and to meet the mom, I was actually the person who ended up getting, I don't want to say my heart broke, but in that situation, like, because when I tried to be that, then of course I wasn't successful at it. And then the relationship ended. And so I ended up being the one to get my heart broke because that relationship ended when I didn't want it to end. I wasn't looking for it to end. So that's interesting that way, is that, look at y'all, see, they ready. They so ready. Yeah, so that's how it ended. But it's interesting because you can change. I'm not saying that, at the end I wanted to become the person that they wanted, but in the end I wanted this person enough to want to change. It was like, okay, well, now that we've gotten to know each other, I am willing to go meet your family. Like, I'm willing to do more than what I said in the beginning, now that we're further along, which is why, you got to give everybody kind of a chance a little bit to grow and learn. I'm still a man with a plan. Tell me at the beginning what's up. But you also have to make room for concessions and say, can you be the person that I'm going to be in love with? I don't know if I'm that person, because again, millennial kind of, I'm going to dip out when I'm ready to dip out. But I do think you have to make room for it.
For sure. I think it is important for us to allow ourselves to evolve. I mean, I think that many of us may, we all been in relationships, and Brandon maybe a little bit more than others. But
No,
I love you, BD.
A good black man over here. Let's chill by myself.
No, it's great. No, I think that the point that you brought up, Brandon, about kind of the notion of evolving, and I think that some of us do have those ideas of what we want. Things like we have these, it's like we have these standards, or we have these, this is how I'm going to be in the relationship. This is the kind of relationship I want. It's like, it's almost like this box. Everything has to be in the box, fit in the box. And then when you arrive at the relationship or arrive at the person, you got to realize that the person that you're meeting and you're engaging with may not have been what you had in your mind when you created the box, or when you created the list, or whatever it is that you created. And so when you come to that moment where you interact with this person, you got to ask yourself, is there opportunity to evolve? Like, does your list change? Does what you want change? Does, once again, compromise, or if what you said I would never do. I mean, I think that that's kind of a part of growing and getting to know somebody, because I think all of us could probably say when we were younger, or even in our current time of our life, where we have oh, I want somebody that's like this and this and this, and I hope that they're like this, and I hope blah, blah, blah. You just have this whole entire litany of things. And then you meet somebody and they don't check all of the boxes, but they're not a bad person. It's not like that they, you say you want somebody employed and they're employed. They may not be employed in the industry you want, or you want somebody that has this or has that. I mean, I guess I'm just saying, and kind of connected to what you said, Brandon, allow yourself to evolve. Allow for, that doesn't mean that you just don't have standards or you don't have a list or whatever, but don't be so stuck in your list that you miss out on something that can be great. Or also make sure, and I shout out Z in this, make sure you're getting the healing that you need so that you can approach a new relationship or a new opportunity with a clean heart, a clean mind, a healed heart and mind, so that you can see things through the right perspective. Because if you always see the other person through the eyes of your hurt, then you won't see past some things, because they do one little thing. It's like, you look like so-and-so. Wait a minute. You said this word. That's what so-and-so used to say. Wait a minute. Hold on. Like, I just said a word. Like, I had somebody I dated one time and they told me, oh, you have a PhD, so you acting like the person before. What? Like, I don't understand the correlation, but that's because they hadn't healed from their hurt of what that person that was at, had a higher degree level. The person, I think, talked at them a certain way. They hadn't healed from that. So they were looking at me through the lenses of that other person. So I think there's just a lot, that you want to make sure that you are doing within yourself, once again, so that you can have a healthy relationship as you're meeting someone.
Yeah, we all agree with each other. I feel the same. I also, if you can change my mind, don't run away then, like right now, I would say that I'm not looking to have that love life right now, because I don't plan on staying where I'm at. So, I'm not pursuing it and I don't see it happening. But if you think you're the one that can change my mind, I mean, shoot your shot, do what you do. Right now, I don't see it though, but you're welcome to try. I didn't mean that as an open invitation though, so don't. I don't want nobody sliding in my DMs.
It's an open invitation. It's an open invitation. His DMs are open. If you aren't sure, DM me. I will make sure his DMs are open.
I didn't mean that as an open invitation.
Listen.
On the podcast, Brandon.
If you could change my mind, then feel free. But nah. I tell people that all the time though. Somebody says they're interested in me. I'm just like, well, get to know me. Get to know me, figure it out, and then let's talk about whether you really like me after you get past the Instagram picture I posted. Then we can talk.
Facts.
Funny. You're so funny.
So questions that came up during my podcast, and I think Brandon was on this, and we kind of touched on it a little bit for this one. Is there, where you are right now, could you date someone who's not within your pay bracket?
Oh, okay. So yeah, I did hear that question. It's a different, society-wise, it's a different conversation for men and women again. Could I? Absolutely. And I think I had stated in there, it is not about bank account. I could care less what the dollar amount is or how much you get paid. I don't care about the pay range. However, at this point, because I'm getting older, our drive has to match. So, you have to be just as ambitious as I am. You have goals just like I have. They don't have to be the same goals, and they're not tied to a monetary value. But if I'm pursuing my dreams, I want somebody who's also pursuing theirs. Otherwise, you're going to be sitting at home waiting for me, and I'm not going to come because I'm going to be out doing my thing. And so for us to evenly match, you got to be just as ambitious and still have that same drive. But no, I don't care what your salary is. I'm good on that.
A good doctor.
Yeah, I would have to agree with Brandon. It makes me think, when you asked that question when Brandon was talking, it made me think of Think Like a Man with Taraji P. Henderson's character and Michael Ealy, where she was like this ambitious career woman and he was like a dreamer. But he was going, so he had a plan. And so I think I agree with Brandon that if I could see you are progressing and that you have a plan, because I think about, I'm in education. Education is not like banking all the time, but could I be with a garbage man? But I think that in the city of Chicago, they probably make more than me. But city workers make some money. But like if they were an artist and not yet discovered, I want to say yes. I want to say that doesn't matter. I would have to say probably the test would come when I'm working, paying bills, and you eating and trying to come up with your next idea. I'm going to be honest. I want to say that I don't care about that, but I have never been in that situation. So part of me is wanting to say yes. And if you got the dream and drive, and yes, I'm sticking ride or die. But at the same time, I would want to be honest with myself. Would that bother me? And I'm not sure if it would. I want to say no, but I mean, I think it feels like it depends on the kind of job you have.
So debt would bother me. So I had this conversation with somebody else. So of course, how much money you bring in does not matter. However, again, I'm getting older. So how much you owe, your debt is a problem. So if you have, because I have debts, I'm not saying we don't have debts, but if your debt and my debt comes together and now we got bigger debt, then I am good. I'm so good on that. You don't have to come to the table with any money, but if you come and you have $500,000 in debt, then we can kick it until we can take care of that and bring that down. We can't get married because we're not combining that. You feel the same about me. Listen, I have debt. I'm not looking right now. If I was to get married, I would want to bring this debt down before I get into a relationship. Just because I'm not 21. If I was 22, then it'd be a different story. But I'm not at that age anymore where I can just play around. I need to know you're coming in here.
Brandon not paying nobody's student loans.
Not paying none. I got my own, yo, and they ain't gave them yet. So come on, Biden.
You're so funny. Yeah. What about you, Zay?
Sorry, I hit the wrong button. So I realized this with a recent relationship. I'm really uncomfortable with a guy making a lot more than me. Like that made me like a lot more. It's different if it's like 20,000 more, but this person was like this. So it made me really question, could I, and this is what, like my family has always joked about this with me. Like, I'm not the type person where you can take care of me. I don't want to be taken care of. Can we take care of the household together? Can you be there if I need you? But I don't need you to come swoop in and like take care of all of my bills and all of my debt. That makes me so uncomfortable. So uncomfortable. So I really realized that like it makes me uncomfortable if you make that much money, because I'm just like, I feel like financially, am I able to bring in what needs to be brought in for our household? So if something was to ever happen to him, could I manage the lifestyle that we created because he was making this much more and I'm in higher ed? We don't make much, like Steph said. But could I be with somebody who made significantly less? No, I couldn't. And that's again comfort. Like I need to know that if something happened to me, you can manage the household. So I'm not, I mean, if it's like there isn't a specific range, but it has to be one that if something was to happen to the other, we're not struggling financially. Like, I don't want to be in that environment. I don't want to have that type of relationship. I know that tends to be where a lot of relationships end up not working because people respond differently to financial struggle. And I know for me, it really makes me uncomfortable to struggle financially. So if we aren't in a position to where somebody on either side, something was to happen, and we can't survive our home, no. But I'm also like with Brandon, if you are in debt and you haven't managed your debts, like, that makes me uncomfortable. I hate owing people. So my bills stay paid. I might be broke, but my bills is paid. I don't like that. Student loans is a different story. But yet I don't like that. So if you are constantly avoiding bill collectors and all that, that's a red flag for me. That means you have other debt that you have not paid off, which means now when we come together, who is responsible for this? But it also makes me want to question too, are you a responsible adult? Are you somebody who can communicate when you have a hard time? Because if you can't communicate to the bill collector when you having a hard time, then how you communicate to me? I mean, that's a bill you created. Or the fact that if you can't talk about or manage your own money, if we put our income together, am I gonna go into debt because you out here buying silly stuff or investing in stuff that don't make any sense? Like, it just makes me, it's a red flag. So debt, where you at? What you doing? And I don't mind us holding off on marriage until you take it down. But if you don't get it down, I'm not putting my name with you. I done seen that happen in relationships where one person had their credit on and the other person didn't. They were still doing stuff, being reckless with their money. And here you are struggling because you married somebody who doesn't understand how to budget. Mm-mm.
No, debt is a no-go. Not doing no debt.
I think that just says that you got to look more holistically at relate. I think the older we get, there's different things that have a different level of value now. Like when we were younger, when we were in our 20s, yeah, oh, he cute, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, he's a dreamer. He don't have it all together, but one day we going to work. Okay. Yeah. 20 years later, that's not cute anymore. If you don't know how to, as Z said, pay your bills, if you don't know how to do certain things, if you're not handling your business, if you don't have a business plan, if you are a dreamer and you don't have a plan to like make that dream a reality at the age of 40, we got to write. Like I think that there's certain things that have different levels of value the older you get. And so I think the compromises that we probably would have made 20 years ago are totally different than what we will make now. Because, it just has to look different. Like stewardship is important because as Z said, you can't steward your money well, then how are you stewarding like our household well and things that we want to do and all of that. And so, yeah, I think all of that is so important and we just have to,
You cannot take love to the bank. Like they don't cash it in. You can't write it on a check. You can't do nothing. And so, yeah, no, I'm with you. I don't care how much you bring, but I do care that you can take care of yourself. You can hold your own, I'm not looking for a dependent. Like that's not happening. I'm not looking for a dependent. I'm not looking for something I got to take care of. That ain't it. I am looking for an equal. And so if you can match me, then we're good. But if you can't match me, my lifestyle, or at least be able to hold your own, then I don't know what's going to happen with that.
No, that's a different subject to when you are with somebody too, and if they know they are bad with their finances and they can say, I trust you enough to let you manage it, I'm okay with that. Yeah. Like that is, to me, that's a good way to, one, be honest about where you are financially and honest about what you know about yourself. But then that's also that compromise in that communication part. Like I know, I would probably definitely like if I want to invest. So I would love to be with somebody who understands the stock market. I would not be the one. So I would definitely hope that my partner is good with that. Because I would tell them like, all right, here, I want to invest this much and give because I just don't know what I'm doing. Like, and I don't feel like I don't want to learn at this point. But if you know good and well that you are not good managing your money and you talk about that, that's the thing. That's why I'm like, I want somebody who can communicate early in our relationship. If you know you suck financially in managing your money, like your bills stay paid, but yet you still splurge and you at the end of the month, you literally are check to check. You don't have a savings account, but that to me makes me uncomfortable. I done been fired and didn't have a savings account, nothing to lean back on. So you don't do that no more. So if you don't have that, then yeah, let somebody else manage that money. Let whoever is the strongest one financially in your relationship manage that finances. But that's that communication up front. And I done seen people who did not have that communication up front, got into the marriage and realized you done spent every single dollar going to the strip club or to the bar or traveling with the boys. You keeping up with the Joneses. You want to still maintain that same lifestyle you had with your friends doing the black ski weekend every year, but knowing we about to buy a house. Like I need you to not do this because we got this house being built from the ground up that we got to make sure we can provide for, or we got a kid coming in 9 months, but yet you want to go down to Atlanta Greek picnics. Like something got to shake, and you can't kick it like you 25, like you about to be 45, 55. Like you got to do something. So
yeah, no, that's I'm with that. I'm honest. I'm not great with paying my bills. Chase pays all my bills. I put them in my bank account and I tell them pay them once a month. And so the bank takes care of. I just had this conversation because my rent. It was like your rent come every day at the same time. Yes, it does, because Chase pays it. It pays it right at the exact dot. And so that's my way of compensating, because if I don't, it would never get paid. I would go the whole month and be like, what was I supposed to pay? When was I supposed to pay it? And so if I'm in a relationship and I'm dating somebody who is better with paying bills, then absolutely take that on. I'll take on something else that I'm better at. But the money is there. That's the difference. Is that the money is there. If the money ain't there, then we got a problem, because now you have a bill and you can't pay it. If the money is there and you're just not really great at paying it, we can work with that because you're covered. Now, if you just got bills but ain't got no check, I'm not paying it. So I'm good. I got enough of them. I got a whole stack. So I'm good.
All right. This has been a good conversation. We done gone from Sylvie's love of whatever to pay your bills, because I'm not paying them. I love our conversations because we evolve and go different places, but all, as you know, we stay within the context of healthy relationships and progressive ambition, which is important. Have your goals. Pursue what you want to pursue in your life. There's nothing wrong with that. Don't apologize for being goal oriented, and at the same time, determine how relationships fit in for you. If you want to be single the rest of your life because you are career oriented, be okay. Don't let anybody pressure you into stepping into something you don't want to do. If you want to be somebody that gives up your particular goals to, go into a relationship, do that as well. If you're happy, you got one life to live, and you have to live with yourself the rest of your life. You have to live with every decision you make. So choose wisely for yourself, and do you. Do what makes you happy. So I don't know, Brandon, Z, you have anything else?
Mm-mm.
no.
Y'all so funny. All right, any announcements?
No.
Brandon?
No announcements.
No announcements.
No.
You got any announcements? Anything coming up?
Nothing's coming up, but if you missed my live broadcast, I took St. Copa Experience from The audio podcast to video podcast, it is on my page, Sankofa Experience Network on Facebook. You can see it there as a replay. The title is So What Are We Doing? Talking about dating. So it was questions, confessions, and stories. Just talk about it was under the guise of dating while we 30, but it ended up going to like a whole lot of other stuff. So Sankofa Experience Network. Experience spelled without the E. Sankofa, Sankofa. But it's definitely a good conversation. So I went live for the first time for 2021.
Yay! I'm so proud of you. Even though I didn't know until after I sent Z something. I sent her a Facebook Live or something to watch, and then I looked and was scrolling on Instagram, and I said, "She had an event tonight. Why didn't I know this?" I felt horrible. Like, oh my gosh, I didn't support.
And Brandon and Will put it in the group chat though. So.
You know, depending on the days, y'all, I do not be in the group chat. It just does not be happening. So yeah, but announcements from me. Check me out. Please follow me. I have a page called Refreshed and Revealed, and I do different Bible studies actually on Wednesday mornings at 7 a.m. Central Time. 7 a.m. Central Time, 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and that's really where a lot of my focus has been in this particular season of my life on my spiritual journey pieces. So haven't done any podcasts yet on as it relates to Free Your Mind, but that's okay. They're coming in the season that they need to come. But I do want to shout out, I want to do this. I want to shout out my sister. She actually just launched a clothing apparel line. So if you check her out, her website is www.faithonlock.com. Her name is Cassandra Crawl. She also has a Facebook page, Faith on Lock. I just wanted to, we're in Black History Month, Black-owned, women-owned business. I wanted to shout her out. So check her website out and buy some apparel. So yeah, but other than that, I am good to go. I'm done. I don't have a closing anymore because I haven't done Free Your Mind, but be blessed, I guess, for me. Brandon, your closing?
I don't have a closing either. Just all right.
Z?
It typically is live your Sankofa experience, but I'm thinking about changing it for 2021. But continue to live, growing from your past life lessons. That way you can continue to move forward into your purpose and be intentional.
Right.
All right. See you guys.
Have a good night.